As the story goes, the John Lewis business has been a great example in the world of retail with all the changes that we're seeing in the retail landscape at the moment. A great example of an organisation that's virtually had to reinvent itself over the last 10 years as we've seen the business transform from being a kind of purely bricks and mortar based business through the world of multi-channel and now into the slightly less well-defined world of omni-channel, if anybody knows what that means. However, like many businesses at the moment, the John Lewis business has the same challenge in not being able to really determine and predict with any degree of accuracy how the next phase of this transformation that we're going through is going to proceed. And the events of the referendum today, I think, will give us even more challenges going forward. In terms of an introduction, I've had the pleasure of leading the development of John Lewis's automated national distribution centre since it was first conceived around about 10 years ago. So a cradle to grave experience, and I remember my boss saying to me when I started that I could probably give you a cradle to grave experience, and it felt very much like that wasn't a metaphor on the morning of the last Black Friday. I can assure you it was quite, but never a dull moment. And as Alan said before that, I spent a number of years with Sainsbury when they introduced mechanisation and automation into their world. Front page news almost, that one, not for the faint-hearted. Many kind of experiences and learnings from that. And before that, I had a great time working with Littlewoods, a couple of guys here from Littlewoods, and I was responsible for their e-fulfilment operation in the northwest of England, over in Shaw. Again, a large automated facility. So had the experience of seeing mechanisation in many of its different guises, the good, the bad, and the slightly interesting. The John Lewis Magna Park campus has been recognised by the industry on a number of occasions over the last 2 years, which we're incredibly proud of, and mainly down to the design and its ability to help navigate this kind of traditional bricks and mortar business through the last number of years. And I'll touch on some of them points as we go through. So the content, a kind of a whistle-stop tour of the journey to date, and pulling out some of the key kind of ingredients that has helped us get to where we are today, and finish on a knife edge with a little bit of jeopardy in terms of what we see as being the key challenges as we go forward. So the journey really began in 2005, and back in 2005 the business had an aspiration to increase the number of department stores we had in the UK from 26 to 36. So not exactly Tesco store growth, but this was a 40% increase on the number of stores we had at that time. And considering it took us 140 years to establish 26 shops, 10 in 10 was quite aggressive. In terms of our online presence, it was very much still an experiment back then. We'd purchased the UK arm of Buy.com that was part of the 99% club that crashed in the .com crash. So it was quite an adventurous move for John Lewis to move into the world of e-commerce at that time. But it'd be fair to say that it was still very much an experiment back in 2005. In fact, many of the kind of pundits in the business suggested our online business would never really grow anything bigger than an average sized department store. And our first attempts at a long-range forecast for our online business suggested that we'd reach the dizzy heights of around about £300 million turnover by next year. So it's quite an interesting planning foundation to be planning the network against. So keep that number in mind. Our distribution capability back in 2005 was quite limited. This was the start of our first two-man home delivery operation that Adrian runs today. Slightly better vehicle delivery than we got then. But we did have some limitations, it'd be fair to say. The distribution network was incredibly manual. We had a number of manual distribution centres where people just walked round up and down aisles and shelving all day picking product for shops. And they predominantly worked on a Monday to Friday basis, again inhibiting the capability to offer e-fulfilment capability. There was no real such thing as store-friendly delivery, so most of the replenishment effort was pushed downstream to the department stores where they had to unravel these deliveries and kind of prepare things and make them shelf ready. And we actually fulfilled the department stores in warehouse packs, which is a real key dynamic in the world of e-commerce now, especially multi-channel operators that have got this conflict between wholesale replenishment into the retail estate and picking single units for customers. So back then, if a department store required 3 items to fill the end of a shelf, we send it a pack of 10 they'd fill the end of the shelf and they'd find somewhere in the storeroom for the residual stock. And there are many examples of an abundance of stock. I think we had something like 14 weeks worth of sales downstream of the distribution centre, so a whole host of stock in the wrong place, again to even access for customer home delivery. So against that background, the kind of master plan that was put together, and the kind of key aspects of the design assumptions that were put together back then really revolved around them three areas. Store friendly, so we wanted to improve the efficiency of the way that we fed stock to the shops. Rather than hordes of kind of cardboard waste in cages, how could we actually pick single units and stream products in a more effective way into the shops? Secondly, how could we improve efficiency, so the use of automation to improve our picking capability and take some of the labour away, and the capacity that went with this additional growth in 10 more department stores. So e-commerce was a consideration, but certainly not a kind of a highlight in terms of the design. And in reality, just moving forward in terms of what we actually seen was something quite different. We've seen a complete proliferation of additional department stores and additional store formats, which added much more complexity to that replenishment effort. The introduction of our John Lewis at Home, which is a much smaller, more focused department store format with a very small residual footprint in the back of the shops, and our click and commute locations. We've got one in King's Cross St Pancras that's just opened, and a small format store in Heathrow Terminal 2. So very different kind of format to what we envisaged in the first place. And our online business really did go boom. In 2011 we introduced for the first time fashion online, and seen amazing growth from that. And that was mixed with this kind of profit pincer, where we were seeing this high volume, low margin aspects that the likes of electronics were giving us. So it's a completely different world. And if you look at our experience against that original forecast, that kind of prudent, predictive, analytical kind of forecast that was put together, well, we slightly exceeded that. Last year, 1.64 billion turnover. The good news is the individual that did the original forecast now heads up our health and safety division, so we've been able to kind of safeguard them skills and keep them retained in the business. But if you were our kind of managing director around that kind of period where we've seen this seismic shift towards this online kind of shopping behaviour, it kind of feel a little bit like this. I think I'm supposed to be the guy with the gun, but literally we had a very tactical approach to investments, because we had to install more capability, more mechanisation to enable us to continue that growth. And anything less than more capability, we'd have seen this kind of plateauing effect. So quite rightly, back in 2012, as the years went on, the business decided quite rightly to adjust the supply chain strategy. So myself and 2 or 3 other guys were pulled out of the day job to try and revise a much more longer term horizon in terms of planning and a more holistic view. So a 2020 horizon was put in place. And our kind of supply chain strategy covered virtually everything from the point a product was handed over to us from a supplier to the point we either passed that to a department store or we passed that to a customer. So a number of projects lined with that. So in terms of our achievements to date, one of the key ambitions we had right at the outset of this journey was to try and introduce what we know as being a single point of stock. So a single pool of stock that fulfills all channels on a first come first served basis. A number of multi-channel operators are kind of plagued with two kind of pots of availability. So there's always this conflict of trying to make sure your availability for your department stores is at the highest level and the availability that's visible online is at the highest level. And that can tend to lead to buying more stock than you need. And what we've been able to do with the introduction of the Magna Park campus is introduce this single pool of stock. So a really lucrative position that we believe that we've got to there. The second key aspect has been the ability to continue the acceleration of our click and collect offer, which currently represents just over 50% of our online effort. Again, something we're really proud of. And another aspect is our smaller format stores are actually fulfilled on a sell one, pick one basis. So literally if they sell an iPad today, tomorrow we'll replenish the iPad. So no longer are we pushing hordes and hordes of stock downstream for the department stores to have the challenge of storing. And a great example of this is a picture of a store we've got in High Wycombe down south. And this was their kind of quite non-value added storage space that was kind of brimming over with stock we couldn't get on the shelf. and through the changes we've made, we've been able to turn that into a fashion assortment. So High Wycombe didn't sell fashion at the time, and the increase in sales in that first year increased by 35% in that 1 year. So a great example of the ability of pulling all that stock back upstream. So a number of kind of questions are asked. So what have been the magic ingredients? We set out on this journey a number of years ago to kind of increase the number of department stores by a further 10 with this kind of dusting of online, and we've seen this completely different shift, that's been kind of no mean feat. And to get one thing out of the way, we have had some luck along the way. So as the picture here will show, this was taken by our neighbours across the way at River Island Distribution Centre. So two ends of the rainbow in both ends of the site. So saying your prayers at night certainly has helped. That's first and foremost. We have had some luck. The first kind of defining moment was right at the outset, the decision to build the first distribution centre bigger than it theoretically needed to be. So as a partnership, we're our own stakeholders, we're joint owners in the business, and we have an ability to try and take the longer term investment option. So the kind of agreement back a number of years ago to actually build the DC bigger than it needed to be was quite a real defining moment. And we've never looked back from that. And it took us quite a while to get the red paint off the roof. The next area was the design principles that we adopted. So we have adopted a sensible mix of manual and automated solutions. So we haven't got a large amount of mechanisation redundant in non-peak periods. We've built the systems in a very multifunctional way, which has added lots more resilience into the solution. And one of the most key decisions we made was to build the system in as modular way as possible. It's easier said than done with automation and warehouse automation, but literally every single year since we've been live, we've undergone some quite major surgery installing more and more capability to get through the next year's peak period. So that's been one of the real call-outs. 2016 has been no exception, so no sooner had we dusted ourselves down from the last peak experience that the installation teams were in, building more capability again for this year and 2017. And about 5 weeks ago we introduced a new automated hanging garment facility. Stands at around about 900,000 square feet on 6 levels and brings into play a new technology called the transponder from a German organisation called Durkop. And the final accolade really in terms of call-outs, it really goes to our John Lewis partners. And because it really has been these guys that have been the glue that's held the whole development together and continue to give the John Lewis Management Board the ongoing confidence to continue with the investment. The campus stands at just over 2.1 million square feet of operating space, and we look after all of John Lewis's small items and hanging fashion, so around about 250,000 SKUs. And again, we've got this lucrative position of having this single pool of stock where we serve in all channels on a first come, first served basis. When the hanging garment solution is fully up and running by September this year, the facility will look after circa 70% of John Lewis's online business. So quite an important piece in the jigsaw puzzle, and immensely proud of where we've ended up. But equally, I think, being fair, immensely aware also, as the cliche goes, it's a journey, not a destiny. And always on the lookout for things that may just trip us up in the future. So in terms of future challenges, and these are kind of 3 areas that we believe not only John Lewis has a challenge with, but probably many retailers as well, as we're seeing this kind of world of digitalisation take over our lives. Partnerability, profitability and predictability. It took quite a while to make 3 rhyme, but we got there in the end. In terms of the partnerability, for many years, John Lewis, and I'm guessing not everybody knows about our business, but for many years in the UK, John Lewis has prided itself on this unprecedented customer face-to-face experience, and we've got an amazing team of people in our department stores up and down the country that do a great job at turning that experience into the John Lewis magic, as we call it. However, with a large percentage of our trade now being online, it's not always possible to interface with the customer on that face-to-face basis. And that's challenging us in ways that we've not seen before. So some of our traditional back-of-house roles are certainly becoming more to the front line, whether that's our delivery drivers, who currently carry out, I think, 46 different service propositions, from kind of barbecue assembly to dishwasher connections and the like. Amazing. And I think we're one of the top 5 installation in-house businesses in the UK, so a far cry from where we were a number of years ago. Our contact centre operators, again, right at the coalface in terms of driving that customer proposition. And more than ever before, our distribution partners who are responsible for that last touch element in terms of packing and wrapping the customer's goods with our online offer. Profitability, and as the story goes, once upon a time when the customer did all the hard work, retail was quite an easy place to be. And we used to think it was difficult a number of years ago, but when the customer jumped in the car, on the train, on the bus, in a taxi, drove to the shops themselves, did all the picking and packing themselves and all the transportation home, it was kind of a bit of a breeze. But now things are incredibly different, and we're seeing the introduction of fulfillment operations, picking and packing capability, the whole consumables piece, places for customers to collect, and that more important, quite expensive angle delivery. And the thing that's not even mentioned there is the whole powder keg of reverse logistics, this whole kind of returns leg, which is there, burning away at the bottom line as well. We believe that online offer is about 3 times more costly than sending stock to a shop. And just to give you some idea, and if you look at our kind of penetration of sales online over the last number of years, 38% last year, there's a prediction that will be 50% by 2019. I have a personal view it will be much higher by 2019, the eternal pessimist. But that really does give us, and I'm sure many other multi-channel retailers, that same kind of challenge. And final, predictability. Retail is all about this event. It's called Christmas. It's precious to every single retailer. It's where we all start to make a little bit of money, and it's incredibly sacred to every retail business in the UK. However, with the advent of certain things that come along to try and spook us, have we any American colleagues in today? I've got to be really careful what I'm saying at international events. But just thank you for Black Friday, I think it'd be nice to say. Really has given us a challenge, completely changed the shape of Christmas, and given Christmas another dimension. It makes Christmas incredibly volatile. Get Black Friday wrong, you get Christmas wrong. And that's a challenge that retailers is brand new to retailers. We've become good at it. I don't think we're excellent at it yet. I think 2011 and 12 were stark reminders of how badly a non-joined up business can be. 2015 I think was a much better experience, and let's hope that's the trend of things to come. But who knows where that's going to go. And with the advent of things like Singles Day, everybody aware of the Asian phenomena? Takes place on the 11th of November in Asia. I wish somebody would come up with some idea that Pancake Tuesday event, something to flatten the volume out. But who knows where events are going to take the retail industry. And as we've just heard from Nanette, the world's gone crackers, and if any of these initiatives really do take off, and they will, I think it's just about time. I was one of the guys that said click and collect would never happen, and who the hell would order things online and go in the shops and collect them, etc., etc. So we all get it wrong, and I think some of these things are just around the corner. And when they do, they absolutely will be the next disruptors of retail. So the key insights from the John Lewis experience. Number one, flexibility is expensive, but in John Lewis's experience, incredibly fundamental. We would not be in the position we are today if we hadn't to take some of the decisions in the early days of remaining some level of agility and being brave with some of the financial decisions that we've made. Secondly, it's not all about the front-end customer proposition. It's about making sure that the engine room has got enough horsepower and capability to drive that customer capability, and that's certainly been the case with the Magna Park development. And finally, the dependability. For over 150 years now, John Lewis has been a successful retailer in the UK, and we built our whole foundations on the back of a great value, amazing assortment, unprecedented customer service, and more importantly, trust. And whatever changes we've seen happen in the last 10 years, and whatever changes I'm sure we'll see in the future, there's some things we believe are precious to the DNA of a business like John Lewis, and there's some things that we believe matter to customers that we won't change. Thank you.